Alex's spaceship shuddered and shook as it entered the atmosphere of an unknown planet. Sparks flew from his controls, and alarms blared in his ears. He gripped the steering tightly, fighting to keep the ship steady. But it was no use. The ship spun, dipping dangerously close to the ground. With a deafening crash, the ship struck the earth, sliding to a rough halt among strange, glowing plants. Everything fell silent. Alex sat still, catching his breath. His helmet visor flashed a warning. Systems offline. Damage critical. He couldn't even call for help. With a deep breath, Alex unfastened his safety belt and carefully stood up. Outside, shadows flickered past the cracked window. Something, or someone, was out there. He grabbed a small scanner from his gear pack and cautiously opened the ship's hatch. Stepping out, he squinted against the planet's dim, eerie light. The ground was covered in blue moss that seemed to pulse like it was alive, and the sky was a shade of purple he'd never seen before. Alex raised his scanner, hoping to get some basic information about the place, but it only beeped an error, as if it, too, couldn't figure out this strange world. He sighed and glanced around, wondering how he would get his ship back in the air. Just then, he heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. He tensed, one hand moving to his sidearm. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadows, a girl around his age, but not quite human. She had smooth, shimmering skin that changed colors in the light and bright, piercing blue eyes that watched him with a look of suspicion. Her hair was a silver cascade, like starlight, and she wore a cloak made of thin, woven material that seemed to blend in with the surroundings. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice firm, but oddly melodic. She pointed a glowing staff at him, holding it like a weapon. "And what are you doing here?" Alex raised his hand slowly, trying to show he meant no harm. "I'm Alex. My ship crashed here by accident. I didn't mean to come to your world," he explained, hoping she'd understand. "I'm not here to hurt anyone." She narrowed her eyes, clearly unconvinced. "This is my home, outsider. I can't just let you stay here," she said, her tone cold. "You're a stranger, and I don't know if I can trust you. I won't let you stay without proof that you mean no harm." Alex nodded, realizing he'd have to earn her trust somehow. He took a cautious step closer. "Maybe I can prove it to you. Maybe there's something I can do to show I'm not a threat." The girl studied him, her gaze as sharp. He'd faced many challenges in his time as an explorer, but this one felt different. This wasn't just about survival, it was about trust. And he knew that to earn Zara's trust, he'd have to be more than just careful, he'd have to be true. As he returned to his ship to prepare for whatever lay ahead, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter with Zara would change everything. Cultural clashes and a language barrier. The morning sun rose, casting an orange glow over the alien landscape. Alex had spent the night repairing parts of his ship, but he knew it would take more than a few tweaks to get it flying again. Zara appeared as promised, standing a few paces away with her arms crossed and a serious look on her face. She didn't waste any time. "You said you would prove yourself. Let's see if you can understand anything about my world." Alex nodded, though he wasn't sure what she had in mind. Zara began speaking in her language, a flowing mix of sounds that almost sang through the air. Alex stared, feeling clueless, though he caught some words here and there. "Look, I don't understand all that," Alex admitted, scratching his head. "Maybe you can show me." Zara huffed and raised her eyebrows, as if he'd just failed a simple test. But she reluctantly gestured for him to follow. They walked along a trail lined with glowing plants that seemed to sway in rhythm to Zora's steps. Alex noticed Zora had a certain grace to her movement. Even the plants seemed to respond to her presence. They stopped at a small pond filled with crystal-clear water that shimmered in the light. Zora pointed at the water and then at a nearby tree with silver leaves, explaining something in her language. Alex had no idea what she was saying, but he tried to mimic her actions. "Is this a special water?" Alex asked, hoping he was guessing correctly. Zara sighed, realizing that Alex hadn't understood her at all. She stepped closer, took his hand, and placed it in the water. The moment his hand touched the surface, he felt a soft, tingling sensation, almost like the water itself was alive. Zara watched him carefully, her eyes sharp. "This water heals," Zara explained slowly, using broken phrases in Alex's language. "It keeps our people strong, but only when you respect it." Alex nodded, trying to look serious. "Got it. Respect the water," he repeated, hoping he was on the right track. But he couldn't help feeling clumsy compared to Zara's smooth understanding of her world. Zara then led him to another area, a field filled with strange, colorful flowers that seemed to hum with energy. She handed him a small silver flower and motioned for him to smell it. As he took a sniff, he immediately felt his nose itch, and he sneezed, causing Zara to laugh for the first time. What's so funny?" Alex asked, wiping his nose. Zara shook her head with a small smile. "That flower is not for smelling. It's for calming." She raised her hands and gestured at the air, making flowing movements. Alex realized that her people must use the flower in some kind of ritual or meditation, something he would have never known just by looking. "Ah, so you don't smell it, you just use it for peace," he guessed, doing his best to copy her movements. "Yes, for peace," Zara replied, a bit more patient now, but she looked at him as if he were a child trying to learn basic manners. To her, these were normal things, part of everyday life. But to Alex, everything was strange, different, and even a little overwhelming. Zara gave Alex a final task for the day. She pointed to a high branch in a nearby tree where a glowing fruit hung. "Get the fruit, if you can," she challenged with a smirk. Alex nodded confidently, thinking it would be easy. But as he reached for the tree, a swarm of small, buzzing creatures appeared, blocking his path. He waved his arms, trying to shoo them away, but they seemed angry, and a few even tried to sting him. Zara watched, clearly amused. "You have to ask them," she said simply. "Ask them?" Alex repeated, confused. How could he ask a bunch of insects? Zara demonstrated by placing her hand near the tree and murmuring softly in her language. The insects calmed instantly, floating away to allow her passage. Alex realized there was more to this task than simple climbing skills. He had to respect the creatures and communicate in a way they understood. Taking a deep breath, Alex tried to mimic her soft tone and gentle hand movements. To his surprise, the insects moved aside, allowing him to climb up and reach the glowing fruit. He climbed back down, feeling a little proud. "Not bad," Zara said with a slight nod, a hint of approval in her eyes. As the sun began to set, Alex sat with Zara by the pond. He felt exhausted from the strange tasks and challenges of the day, but also a little more connected to Zora's world. He looked at her, wondering if this was what she'd wanted all along, for him to understand and respect her ways. "You did." "Well," Zara said quietly, almost shyly. She still looked a bit skeptical, but Alex felt like he had made some progress. "Thank you," he replied, giving her a small smile. "I'm learning. Slowly, but I'm learning." Zara looked away, a faint smile on her face. As she stood to leave, she glanced back at him and said, "Tomorrow, we try something harder. Don't disappoint me." And with that, she disappeared into the darkening forest, leaving Alex with the realization that he had a long way to go before he could truly earn her trust. A hunt for lost technology. The next morning, Alex was ready to take on any challenge Zora threw at him. He knew that if he didn't find a way to prove himself soon, he might never earn her trust. Zara appeared just as the first rays of sunlight hit the blue moss covering the ground, her expression serious. "Today, we search for something important," Zara said, her tone firm. An ancient device. My people once used it to guide us through the stars. Now it's lost, but I think you can help find it." Alex's eyes lit up with excitement. He hadn't expected Zara to trust him with something so valuable, especially after only 2 days. But he also knew that she was testing him. This wasn't just about finding a piece of technology. It was about proving his loyalty. "Where should we start looking?" Alex asked. Zora pointed toward the dense forest, where the trees twisted together, creating a maze-like landscape. "The device is somewhere in the forest, but it's hidden well. Only someone brave and careful can find it." Alex followed Zora into the forest, trying to keep up with her as she weaved through the trees. The forest was alive with strange creatures watching them from the shadows, and the plants seemed to move whenever Alex looked away. It felt as if the forest itself was testing him, seeing if he was worthy of being there. They walked for hours, and Alex began to wonder if they were going in circles. Just when he was about to ask Zara, she stopped suddenly, holding up her hand to signal silence. She pointed to the ground, where a faint metallic shine peeked through the moss. Alex knelt down and brushed the moss aside, revealing a small round object with symbols carved into its surface. It looked like some sort of alien compass, glowing faintly. He glanced at Zara, who nodded. "This is part of the device," she said, "but it's broken. We need the other pieces to make it work." Alex carefully placed the piece in his bag, feeling a strange sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about helping Zara anymore. It felt like he was a part of something much bigger. They continued deeper into the forest, searching every nook and cranny. After a while, they reached a rocky area with a large boulder sitting in the center. Zara seemed to hesitate, looking at the boulder with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What's wrong?" Alex asked, noticing her tense posture. "This place is strange. My people say it's cursed. Only the bravest come here," Zara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up, but he didn't want to turn back. If Zara was willing to face her fear, he would too. Slowly, he approached the boulder and noticed faint lines on its surface, as if something had been etched into it long ago. He pressed his hand against it, and suddenly, the ground rumbled and a small compartment opened in the boulder, revealing another piece of the device. Zara gasped, staring at Alex with wide eyes. "How did you know to do that?" Alex shrugged, feeling a bit surprised himself. "I didn't. Just a lucky guess, I guess." They retrieved the second piece, which was larger than the first and had a series of lights on it that flickered as they held it. Alex could tell that Zara was beginning to trust him a little more, but there was still a distance between them. He knew that finding the device alone wouldn't be enough to fully earn her trust. As they walked back, Zara suddenly stopped, her eyes scanning the trees. "We're being watched," she whispered. Alex's heart raced as he looked around. In the distance, he saw movement, shadowy figures blending in with the trees. They were smaller than Zara, but moved quickly, darting from tree to tree, always staying just out of sight. "Who are they?" Alex asked, keeping his voice low. "Scavengers," Zara replied, her voice tense. "They're after the same device. If they get it, they'll use it for bad things." Without another word, Zara took off running, and Alex followed close behind, clutching the device pieces tightly. The scavengers began to close in, their footsteps echoing through the forest. Zara led Alex through a series of narrow paths, ducking under branches and leaping over roots, until they reached a hidden clearing surrounded by tall stones. "Hide here," Zara instructed. She stood at the edge of the clearing, facing the scavengers who had started to emerge from the shadows. She raised her staff, which began to glow, casting a bright light that seemed to keep the scavengers at bay. Alex watched in awe as Zara stood her ground, fearlessly protecting the device they had found together. Eventually, the scavengers gave up, retreating back into the darkness. Once they were alone, Zara turned to Alex, her expression softer than he'd ever seen. "You did well today," she said, her voice sincere. Maybe you really do want to help." Alex smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "I'll do whatever it takes. I want to prove that I can be trusted." Zara nodded, looking at him thoughtfully. "We're not done yet, but you're closer than you were before." She gestured for him to follow her back toward the village, where they would keep the device safe until they found the final piece. As they walked back together, Alex felt that, for the first time, Zara was starting to see him not as an outsider, but as someone she could rely on. And for Alex, that meant more than any technology they could find. Mysterious disappearances. The next day, Alex noticed something strange as he and Zara walked through the village. The usual busy paths and lively sounds were missing. Instead, there was an eerie silence, and the air felt heavy. Zara's face was tense, and her eyes darted around as if she were looking for someone. "Zara, what's going on? Where is everyone?" Alex asked, feeling the chill run down his spine. Zara shook her head, worry clouding her expression. "Some of our people are gone. They disappeared in the night, without a trace." She whispered the last part, as if afraid of her own words. "It has happened before, but never so many at once." Alex felt his heart race. Disappearances, without any clues. He knew this was no ordinary mystery, especially not on this strange planet. As they walked further into the village, an elderly villager approached them, her face pale with fear. "Zara," the woman said in a shaky voice, "3 more vanished last night. The council is meeting. They fear the darkness has returned." "The darkness?" Alex echoed, confused. Zara glanced at him, then back at the woman, nodding with understanding. "I'll come to the council soon." "Thank you," she said softly, guiding Alex away from the crowd. Once they were alone, she took a deep breath and explained. "A long time ago, a strange force roamed this land," Zara began. "We called it the darkness. It would come without warning and take people from their homes, leaving nothing behind. Then, one day, it stopped. My people thought it was gone forever. Until now." Alex frowned. "And you think this force is back? But why now?" Zara shook her head. "I don't know. But we need to be careful, Alex. If this is the same force, it's powerful. And it could take anyone, even us." The thought made Alex uneasy, but he could see Zara's determination. She wasn't going to just sit and wait for answers. She wanted to act. And so did he. "Is there anything we can do to find out more?" Zara nodded slowly. "There is a hidden place in the forest, an ancient library. It holds records of our history, including the time when the darkness first appeared. Maybe we'll find clues there." Alex agreed without hesitation, and the two set off, leaving the quiet village behind. The forest seemed darker than before, with long shadows stretching across their path. Even the strange, glowing plants seemed dim, as if they, too, were afraid. After a long walk, they arrived at an old stone doorway, half covered in moss and vines. Zara brushed the plants aside, revealing a strange symbol carved into the stone. She placed her hand on it, and the door slowly creaked open, revealing a vast, dimly lit room lined with shelves filled with ancient scrolls and stone tablets. Zara led Alex down one of the aisles, searching carefully. "Here," she said, stopping in front of a dusty, worn tablet. The symbols on it glowed faintly as Zara ran her fingers over the surface. "This tablet talks about the darkness," she said, reading slowly. "It says the darkness comes from deep within the earth. It takes the lonely and the weak, those who wander alone or are far from the village." Alex shivered. "So if we stay together, we're safer." Zara nodded. "But there's more. The tablet says the darkness feeds on fear. The more afraid people are, the stronger it becomes." Alex swallowed hard. This was more serious than he'd thought. They had to find a way to keep the villagers calm and safe, or the darkness would only grow stronger. Suddenly, a low rumbling noise echoed through the library. Zara and Alex froze, their eyes wide. The walls seemed to shake, and a shadowy figure appeared at the far end of the room. It was tall and shapeless, moving like a dark mist. "Zara," Alex whispered, his heart pounding. Is that the darkness?" Zara nodded, fear in her eyes, but she held her ground. "Stay close," she whispered back. "Don't show fear. Remember, it feeds on that." The figure drifted closer, its form swirling as if it were made of smoke. Alex took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He focused on Zara, staying close to her, just as she'd said. The shadow paused, as if sensing their calm, then slowly faded, disappearing into the walls. Alex let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "That was close," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara nodded, her face pale. "It seems the darkness doesn't attack directly if we stay together and remain calm. But this is only a temporary solution. We need to understand it better if we want to stop it for good." They carefully exited the library, the weight of what they'd learned pressing down on them. Outside, the forest was still, but both Alex and Zara could feel the presence of the darkness lingering nearby, watching, waiting for a chance to strike again. As they made their way back to the village, Alex knew that they had to warn the others. They would have to stay strong, united, and unafraid, even if the darkness was lurking in every shadow. Once back in the village, they gathered the remaining villagers and shared what they'd discovered. Alex spoke calmly, even though he felt the fear bubbling inside. The villagers listened intently, their faces a mix of worry and hope. Zara reminded them that they were strongest when they stayed together, and that they could resist the darkness by keeping their minds clear and calm. The villagers nodded, some of the fear fading from their eyes. Alex could feel the bond between him and Zara growing stronger. Together, they had faced the darkness, and together, they would continue their search for a way to defeat it. But as the night approached, Alex knew this fight was far from over. The darkness was still out there, waiting, and he and Zara would have to be ready. The artifacts, secrets. The next day, Alex and Zara gathered early in the village center. The villagers were still uneasy, some whispering about the darkness, others clinging to each other for support. The night had passed without anyone disappearing, but the fear still lingered. Alex knew that, if they wanted to stop the darkness for good, they had to uncover the secrets of the ancient device they'd been assembling. "Zara, we have 2 pieces of the device now," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "Maybe we should try putting them together and see what happens. It could reveal something important." Zara nodded, holding the 2 pieces they had found, the glowing disc and the piece from the boulder with the strange lights. She hesitated, her fingers gently tracing the carvings, as if she could feel the power hidden within. "Yes, I think you're right," she replied, glancing around to make sure no one was watching too closely. "We'll go to the sacred cave on the mountain. There, we'll be able to examine the device safely." They left the village, following a winding path that led up a steep hillside. The journey was tough, with sharp rocks and narrow ledges, but neither Alex nor Zara hesitated. As they climbed, they spoke about the darkness, trying to make sense of its sudden return. "Do you think this device has anything to do with the darkness?" Alex asked, carefully stepping over a large stone. "I'm not sure," Zara replied. "But legends say our ancestors created powerful tools to protect us. Maybe this device was one of them. If it has secrets, they could help us understand what we're facing." Finally, they reached the entrance of the cave. It was dark and cool inside, with a faint glow coming from crystals embedded in the walls. Alex and Zara walked deeper until they found a smooth stone platform. Zara placed the 2 pieces of the device on it, taking a deep breath. "Let's see if they fit together," she murmured. Alex watched as Zara carefully aligned the 2 pieces, their shapes matching perfectly. As soon as she connected them, a soft hum filled the air, and the device began to glow brighter. Strange symbols appeared on its surface, shifting and changing like they were alive. What does it say?" Alex asked, feeling both excited and nervous. Zara studied the symbols, her eyes narrowing in concentration. "It's a message from the past," she said slowly. "It says this device can create a shield, a powerful barrier that can protect the village, but only if we find the final piece." Alex's heart raced. A shield. That could be exactly what they needed to keep the darkness away. But there was one problem. They didn't know where to find the last part of the device. "Does it say anything about where the last piece is?" Alex asked, hoping for a clue. Zora looked closer, then shook her head. "No, but it does mention something called the Whispering Lake. My people believe it's a magical place that can show visions to those who ask. Maybe the lake can help us find the last piece," Alex suggested, "if we ask the right question." With a plan in mind, they left the cave and headed toward the lake. The Whispering Lake was deep in the forest, past the familiar paths Zara usually took. As they walked, the forest grew darker, and the air felt colder, as if the darkness was watching their every step. At last, they'd reached the lake. The water was still and dark, reflecting the trees and sky like a mirror. Zara knelt by the water's edge, closing her eyes, and whispered, "Show us the path to the final piece of the device." Alex knelt beside her, watching the water closely. At first, nothing happened, and he wondered if it was just a story. But then ripples appeared on the surface, forming strange patterns. Slowly, an image took shape, a tall tree with silver leaves, standing alone on a hill. "That's near the northern cliffs," Zara whispered, recognizing the tree. "We should hurry. The darkness grows stronger every night." Without wasting a moment, they set off toward the cliffs, guided by the vision from the lake. The journey was long, and Alex felt the weight of their task pressing down on him. But as he glanced at Zara, he could see the same determination in her eyes. They were in this together. Finally, they reached the tree from the vision. Beneath its silver leaves, half buried in the dirt, was a small glowing piece of the device. Alex carefully pulled it out, feeling a rush of excitement and relief. "We did it," he said, holding up the final piece. Zara smiled, but her expression quickly turned serious. "Now we have to return to the cave and activate the device before nightfall. The darkness will come again tonight, and this time it will be stronger than ever." As they raced back toward the sacred cave, Alex felt a surge of hope. With the completed device, they might finally have a way to protect the village. But he also knew that the darkness wouldn't give up easily. They were running out of time. Once they arrived back at the cave, Zara carefully assembled all three pieces. As soon as she connected the final piece, the device pulsed with a brilliant light, casting a warm glow throughout the cave. "It's working," Zara said, her voice filled with awe. "The device, it's creating the shield." A faint shimmering barrier spread outward from the device, surrounding the village and the nearby forest. Alex felt a wave of relief wash over him. The device had truly come alive, just as the ancient legends had promised. As they left the cave, Alex and Zara stood on the hill, watching the protective shield wrap around the village like a comforting blanket. For the first time in days, Alex felt a sense of calm. They had found the device's secrets, and with them, a way to keep the darkness at bay. But deep in his heart, Alex knew that their journey wasn't over. The darkness was still out there, waiting, and they would have to stay vigilant if they wanted to keep the village safe. Facing the Guardian. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. As Alex and Zara stood atop the hill, they could see the shimmering shield surrounding the village, a sign of hope after days of fear. But even with the shield in place, a new challenge awaited them. They had learned from the ancient device that to fully unlock its power, they needed to face the Guardian. The Guardian protects the secrets of this land, Zara explained, her voice steady but filled with concern. It is said to be a powerful spirit, and only those who prove their worth can pass. Alex took a deep breath. What do we have to do to prove ourselves? Zara looked into the distance where the trees thickened, hiding the Guardian's domain. We must show our courage and our determination. It will test us in ways we cannot predict. We have to be ready for anything. Together, they made their way toward the heart of the forest, where the Guardian was said to dwell. The trees grew taller and denser, their branches intertwining like fingers reaching out to stop them. Shadows danced around them, and the air felt charged with magic. After walking for some time, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a massive stone archway, covered in vines and glowing with an otherworldly light. Alex could feel the energy radiating from it. "This must be the entrance," Zara said, stepping forward. "We need to go through together." With a nod, Alex took her hand, and they stepped through the archway. On the other side, the world changed. The sky was darker, filled with swirling clouds, and the ground was covered in bright, glowing flowers. It felt like stepping into another realm, one where magic and danger lived side by side. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed through the clearing. "Who dares to enter my realm?" The sound reverberated off the stone walls, and the ground shook beneath them. "I am Zara, daughter of the tribe, and this is Alex, my ally," Zara called out, her voice strong. "We seek to unlock the secrets of the ancient device and protect our people from the darkness." A tall figure emerged from the shadows. It was the Guardian, a being made of light and shadow, with flowing robes that shimmered like stars. Its eyes were deep pools of wisdom, watching them closely. "To unlock the secrets, you must first face your fears," the Guardian said, its voice echoing like thunder. "Only then will you prove yourselves worthy." Alex felt a rush of fear, but pushed it aside. "What do we have to do?" he asked, trying to sound brave. The Guardian raised a hand, and the ground shifted, creating two paths before them. "Each path leads to your greatest fear. You must choose wisely, for only one will lead to the truth." Zara looked at Alex, her expression serious. "We have to face this together. Whatever it is, we can't let fear control us." Alex nodded, feeling a mix of determination and dread. They stepped forward together, and after a moment, they chose the left path, which glowed faintly. As they walked, the air grew colder and shadows flickered around them. They soon found themselves in a dark room filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of Alex, each one filled with fear and doubt. One reflection showed him running away from danger, another showed him failing to protect Zara. "This is just an illusion," Zara said, standing tall beside him. "These fears can't hurt us unless we let them." Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his fears. "I'm afraid of failing. I don't want to let you or our people down," he admitted, his voice trembling. Zara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We've come too far to turn back now. We have to believe in ourselves." Together, they stepped forward, and as they did, the mirrors shattered, turning into shards of light that danced around them. The darkness began to fade, and they found themselves back in the clearing, facing the Guardian. "Well done," the Guardian said, its voice warm and inviting. "You have faced your fears and emerged stronger. Now it is your ally's turn." Zara stepped forward, her heart racing. The Guardian raised its hand again, and the ground shifted once more. This time, a door appeared, leading to a scene from Zara's past. She stood frozen as she watched herself as a child, afraid and alone in the forest after losing her way. "No," Zara shouted, stepping back. "I can't face that." The Guardian's eyes softened. "You must, Zora. You need to confront the pain of your past to move forward." Taking a deep breath, Zara stepped into the scene. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. "I'm not alone anymore." As she approached her younger self, she felt a surge of strength. "You're brave. You survived this. You're not lost anymore," she said gently, reaching out to the child in the memory. As she touched her younger self, the scene began to dissolve, replaced by a bright light that filled the clearing. When the light faded, they found themselves back with the Guardian. "You both have proven your worth," the Guardian said, its voice echoing with approval. "You have faced your fears, and now you are ready to unlock the secrets of the device." With a wave of its hand, the Guardian revealed a hidden passage behind the archway. "Follow this path to find the final secrets. Use what you've learned, and you will find the strength to defeat the darkness." Alex and Zara exchanged determined glances. They were ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they stepped into the passage, knowing that they were stronger together. The battle against the darkness was not over, but with each challenge they faced, they were one step closer to protecting their home. Trust and triumph. Alex and Zara stepped into the hidden passage, their hearts pounding with excitement and anticipation. The air was thick with magic, and the walls glowed faintly with symbols they had never seen before. Each step they took seemed to echo with the promise of ancient knowledge. "This must be where the final secrets of the device are hidden," Zara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. As they walked deeper into the passage, the glow around them brightened, illuminating strange carvings on the walls. They showed stories of their ancestors battling the darkness, using powerful artifacts to protect their land. Alex felt a connection to these ancient heroes, their struggles resonating with his own. Suddenly, they arrived in a large chamber filled with light. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it rested an ornate box covered in glowing runes. Alex and Zara exchanged glances, both feeling a mix of awe and fear. "This must be it," Alex said, stepping forward. "The final piece we need to fully activate the device." Zara nodded, her expression serious. "But we must be careful. The Guardian said these secrets could hold great power. We need to be ready for anything." As Alex reached for the box, the moment he touched it, a surge of energy shot through him. The box sprang open, revealing a glowing crystal inside. It pulsed with light, and Alex could feel its warmth radiating in his hands. "What is it?" Zara asked, her eyes wide. "I think it's the heart of the device," Alex replied, awe filling his voice. "This crystal is what will amplify the power of the shield." They carefully lifted the crystal from the box, and as they did, the runes on the pedestal glowed brighter. "We need to bring this back to the village," Zara said, her voice steady. "This is the key to stopping the darkness." Just then, the chamber trembled, and shadows flickered at the edges of the light. A cold wind rushed through the room, and the darkness they had fought so hard against began to take shape, swirling around them like a storm. "It's here," Alex shouted, feeling a rush of fear. "We have to go now." Zara tightened her grip on the crystal, her determination shining through the fear. "Stay close to me. We can't let it separate us." They raced back through the passage, the darkness chasing them, whispering their fears and doubts. "You cannot win," it taunted. "You are weak. You cannot save your people." Alex gritted his teeth. "No, we are not weak. We have each other." Zara nodded, her voice steady. "We are strong together." As they burst out of the passage and into the clearing, the darkness roared, growing larger and more threatening. But Alex and Zara stood their ground, the crystal glowing brightly between them. "This is it," Alex said, feeling a surge of courage. "We have to activate the device now." With shaking hands, they placed the crystal into the device they had assembled. The moment it connected, a brilliant light exploded from the device, creating a barrier of energy that pushed back the darkness. "Feel the power," Zora shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "We can do this." The darkness shrieked, struggling against the light. It writhed and twisted, but the shield was strong. Alex focused on the warmth of the crystal and the strength of their bond. "We are not afraid. We will protect our home." The light grew brighter, enveloping the clearing and spreading out toward the village. As the shield expanded, the darkness began to fade, shrieking in anger and in frustration. With one final push of energy, the darkness was pushed back, shrinking until it vanished entirely, leaving only a faint echo behind. The air became still, filled with a sense of peace and relief. "We did it," Alex exclaimed, his heart racing with joy. He turned to Zara, who was beaming with pride. "Yes, we did," she replied, laughter spilling from her lips. "We faced the darkness together, and we won." As they stood in the clearing, the sun began to rise on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The village was safe, and their people would wake to a new day, free from fear. Together, they made their way back to the village, the device glowing softly at their side. Villagers began to gather, their faces filled with hope and curiosity. Alex and Zara shared the story of their journey, how they had faced their fears, confronted the Guardian, and unlocked the secrets of the device. "You have saved us," one villager called out, and cheers erupted from the crowd. Zara stepped forward, holding the device high. "This is our shield, a symbol of our strength and unity. Together, we can face any darkness." The villagers cheered again, their voices echoing through the valley. Alex felt a warm glow of pride swell in his chest. They had not only protected their home, but had also brought their community together. As night fell and the stars twinkled above, Alex and Zara sat on a hill overlooking the village. The device pulsed softly, a beacon of hope against the dark sky. "We did it, Alex," Zara said, her voice full of wonder. "We faced everything, and we didn't give up." Alex nodded, his heart full of gratitude. "And we did it together. I couldn't have done it without you." Zara smiled, her eyes shining with joy. "Neither could I. This is just the beginning. We'll keep our village safe, no matter what challenges come next." They watched the stars twinkle above, knowing that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, united by trust, strength, and a deep bond that no darkness could ever break.